Oh yes, everyone, I'm back in the kitchen with a vengeance. Always ready to cook. So, we're gonna start the year with some cooking tips. Now, we just had a live stream session where some of you have asked some interesting questions. But because it's very long, the live stream and stuff like that, I'm going to condense everything and answer all the questions that were asked, and I'm going to give you some tips for the beginner cooks out there. So 2021, plenty of cooking to come, but for a little recap for everyone, we need to know the basics and know what's important. So all my tips for the beginner coming up. And here we are. Welcome to the new office. So 2021 cooking tips. As I said, I'm going to answer some of the or repeat some of the questions there was in the live session. I've got my little paper here, not to forget anything. So let's start. It all starts with the basic ingredients and condiments you use for your cooking. So this is for absolute beginners. So when you start with French cooking, you don't know what to learn, what to do, etc. Before going into recipes and start to learn all the difficult stuff, start with the basics, and that starts with ingredients. So know your ingredients, starting with condiment, which is like salt, pepper, mustard, and then all the dairy products, etc., etc. One of the questions from the live was, I'm not too sure when to add salt when I make a fricassee. So when you cook in French cooking, it's true that you make a sauce, there's a stock that's added to it, it has to reduce, and it's not easy to know exactly when should you add salt. Well, towards the end is the answer, because every ingredient contains salt. So the way to really have a clean taste in your sauce, in your preparation, minimize the salt, minimize the pepper, and keep this for the end. And because if you put it at the beginning, there's lots of liquid and you're going to think, oh yeah, it's not salty enough. You're going to add salt, it's going to reduce, and then it's going to be way too salty. Okay, so less is more. The type of salt and peppers you can use is huge. In the supermarket, you don't need to go to any special place. That plate contains all the salt I can get in my supermarket. All right, so you've got the standard table salt that I don't like, but it can be useful. It's very fine grain if you need something that's really going to dissolve over a vegetable or a piece of meat. If you want something for more presentation and that has got less salty power, salt flakes, and this is from an estuary, like it's actually river salt, it's fine. It's got a color as well. It's pink. Himalayan rock salt, same thing. When you boil water, you boil vegetables, instead of using always this kind of fine salt, a little pinch of rock salt is useful when you have large quantities. But good to know, rock salt can also be used for things like a tomato salad. You could add the salt that is usually the table salt, but trust me, a pinch of rock salt over your tomatoes like this instead of the other will transform the kind of texture and the way the salt dissolves, because it's little blocks, you see, like an ice cube. And as you put it over the tomatoes, you're going to have this kind of patch of saltiness here and there with some crunch, and with the salt that dissolves there, and it changes, the experience is quite amazing. You should try this. Pepper is the same thing. I've got here white pepper, anything that's white when you start with French cooking. Okay, it's a white sauce, and it's a white ragu, anything that's white that can't have color, even mayonnaise, you should use white pepper. You got a gray pepper, you got black pepper, you got coarse pepper, you got mixed berries, all these types of pepper that you're doing steaks, cooking with sauce, or even simple mayonnaise, or anything you do in French cooking, try to change these. Salt and vinegar, exactly the same thing. Don't get stuck with the little canola oil or vegetable oil. There's a range of oil to use from. Peanut oil, grapeseed oil, sunflower oil, olive oil, macadamia oil, you've got what? Walnut oil, avocado oil. All these for dressings, for instance, can change your cooking drastically. So if you combine what I'm told you here, change your salt, change your pepper, use a different oil, use a flavored vinegar. Instead of a white wine vinegar or red wine, take a tarragon infused or shallot infused vinegar. This on its own will transform a simple lettuce salad. Okay? And that goes with a lot of little things like this. The next question I got on the live was about cream. Can you explain what is actually heavy cream? What is the story with cream? So, once and for all, in French cooking and French baking, when we talk about cream, it doesn't matter if it's a liquid cream, a thick cream or anything. What matters is the fat content in the cream. 32 to 35% fat content is what we usually use. This is the thing for sauce, for dessert, for anything when you want to be a whipping cream, when you want to add the cream to something else. And if it curdles, a lot of time is because your cream is too light and does not contain enough fat. The same goes with milk. Full cream milk, it's a milk with all its fat content in there, is usually the milk we can use in French cooking. Butter, same exact thing. 85% fat content. If your butter got, for instance, like 75%, which sounds huge, if you make a roux, which is that mix of flour and butter to make a white sauce, your roux is not going to work because there's too much water in your butter. So as you can see, little things like this, can change everything. That can be the difference between succeed in a recipe or totally fail. I have a sauce that has curdled, trying to make a whipped cream that doesn't work, making a gratin that also doesn't set properly. All these things can lead to a disaster. When it comes to spirits, we know about wine. White wine, red wine. People ask me, I'm using this and that. If you want to improve your cooking, if you want to change at a very basic level, a very simple pan sauce, yes, it can be made with red wine, white wine, but there's more basic alcohols that exist out there that you can use. The common ones, Madeira wine, super commonly used at the basic level in French cooking that will really give you a new taste. Port wine that I don't have here, and white vermouth. Anything with fish sauce and cream, you can use this instead of white wine. It's like a white wine, but it just tastes different. So all these little things, of course, combined with these herbs, it's going to bring this fragrance. So same thing for herbs. I like to say for beginners, people tell me I can't find any fresh herbs in my supermarket. Well, guess what? Let me grab something here. Look at that. Up, boom. This is growing in my kitchen. It's coriander, I've got basil, I've got parsley, I've got other things in pot. You don't even need to have a balcony. You can buy this as a seed in any kind of garden shop. And this thing, look at this, look how happy it is. That grows in my kitchen virtually. I just leave this for decoration. And when I need some, boom, I've got a fresh herb. And fresh herbs is the one thing that's going to transform absolutely everything. So anything you buy, before thinking of cooking, look at your ingredients. Onions, garlic, and make sure they're well sourced and organic. Potatoes, keep in mind, there is 3 styles. You got waxy potatoes, all-round potatoes, and starchy potatoes, each used for different purpose. In each category, every potato tastes different. You got yellow flesh, you got white flesh. So some that are kind of bluish colors. There's all kinds. So what I advise you can do when you start, instead of going wild, simple potato, make a mash, make sauté potatoes, and every single time you do it, you know what? Go to the supermarket and choose a different type of potato. Experience. And this is how you learn. This is what I've learned. I've learned everything from the bottom up. It's that simple. So, moving on, the nightmare of looking for cookware and utensils. Oh my God. This is important. Now, if you've watched my video, you know that last year I decided to buy a whole set of Mauviel pans because of the level of cooking I'm at. But before then, I was stuck in the loop of looking at all these brands and cookware and pans and, which shape should I buy? Which brand should I buy? And I've been going on and on. As you can see on my channel, I had a whole array of different pans. And my cupboards ended up to be, when I moved house here, my cupboards was full of what I call like tryouts, which are just pans of all kinds, very similar ones. They were just gathering dust because I just didn't find the right pan and the right brand. So my advice, because this is what I've saved my life, since I bought my set of pans, with the brand I've chosen, I didn't have to think anymore of that nightmare of, do I have that pan? No, I've got everything. So when you begin, you don't need to buy the top of the range. Look at your budget. And you got, brands like Cuisine Art, All Clad, a Viking or Lagostina or something like this. There's some brand, and buy yourself a cookware set. You don't need to go fancy when you start. Buy a medium range cooking, cookware set that's got at least a non-stick pan, some stainless steel, and that set, without you thinking, would have everything you need. So click that buy button if you buy online, and honestly, you're gonna sleep better at night because you can spend years just searching. The same applies for knives. You know what? Let me show you. Knives, the same rabbit hole. When you buy a knife, let me show you here. So I've got one knife, two knives here, I've got another one here, I've got another one here. All these knives, okay, these are just paring knives of all kinds. All brands. I've got French brands, I've got Japanese brands, I've got German brands, I've got Spanish brands. And you know what it leads to? Again, same thing. These things are just gathering dust. And it comes to one conclusion. When you start, do you actually really need this kind of Damascus Japanese blade and that you need to sharpen with your stone and the whetstone and stuff like that? Absolutely not. And the more I'm cooking, and the more I'm doing, I really realize this and more. So in my course, I've already taught, we know we don't need many knives when you start. But I like to quote the thing that Jacques Pepin said. That was very interesting. He said, in cooking, he was demonstrating some, knife skills. So, you really don't need like 2 or 3 knives is enough. But that said, I've got about 300 in my cupboards. That says it all. Because as human, we've got that thing of looking at reviews. Oh, maybe this knife is better, this knife is better. So what's the answer? You know what? Let me show you. For me, now, as a culinary teacher, because now that I've got the school, the one thing I've been looking at is what equipment is given to students in culinary schools. Because that gives you a cheap knife, a set of knife that is fit for purpose, and usually it's got all the quality you're after. My personal thing when it comes to knife is ergonomic. Last week, I bought this thing here, okay? Just a set of knife right here. I bought this on the side, it's like a magnetic kind of board, but we don't care about that. Okay, so these knives, okay. No frill knife, absolutely cheap, used in culinary schools in America. The brand is Mercer Culinary. It's not affiliated at all, actually pay for this, about a bit more than $100 for the set. But these things, you know what? They got this kind of rubber handle. This is the Genesis series, if you look for it. It is so comfortable. It does not slip. If you got wet hands, it holds well. If you got big hands, it holds well. And the thing is, it's really it's kind of a thick blade. It's German steel. It's not even stainless steel. I think it says like no stained steel, something like that. But you know what? These are doing the job. And when you got a knife set, this is something I've reckoned even myself, and when I talk to friends, because all the knives have got the same handles, the same kind of weight, you will be drawn to your knife set over and over again, and you will start to feel confident using those knives. And you will realize again, you know what? I don't need to have like a brand of, one knife of each brand of the Japanese, because the expensive knives, they're flimsy, they're fragile, they're very thin, you think you're gonna cut yourself. What you want is like the big, good old workhorse when you begin. Yeah? This thing can go in the dishwasher, you can bang it on the floor, it can fall, and you can cut everything. It's sharp enough, it's got all what you need. So stop the search like the cookware. Honestly, get yourself a knife set. It doesn't have to be that brand, suit your budget, choose a brand, that's what I'm saying, just choose a brand and click buy, get a set of 5 knives, I'm done. I've got here the chef's knife, the bread knife, boning knife, utility and paring knife. That's all you need. That said, let's move on. Yes. So you got everything, all right, for the tips. You know about your ingredients and stuff like that. Buy fresh vegetables, organic things, blah, blah, blah. But you want to start cooking. The one thing I'm hearing a lot of time from people is like, oh, what recipe should I do when I start? And I always say, it's not about making recipes. When you start, and if you really don't know much about cooking, the simple thing you can try to do first, before even venturing into making recipes, is try to replace the stuff that you buy in a supermarket. So for instance, like French dressing. A lot of people buy this in a bottle. Make it yourself. Salt, pepper, 1 measure of vinegar, 3 measures of oil. Look at the oil and vinegars I'm telling you, boom, you get a superb dressing. Mayonnaise, same thing. I've got a video, I will list all the videos on this. You can make your own mayonnaise at home. It's super easy and it tastes way better. You can also make your own butter. You don't know how to find a French butter, you can make your own. Buy some good quality cream, you whip it long enough, boom, you got the best butter you can ever have, and that will have the fat content I've talked about. All the things like whipped cream, short crust, same thing here. Instead of buying all this frozen stuff and before starting recipes, try the things. I've got some things on the channel that are super easy, like a handmade short crust. Honestly, it takes 10 minutes. You can use it for a tart. You can make strawberry tarts, pear tarts, apricot tarts. You can make quiches, and you can make tomato tart. There's a zillion things you can do. You don't even need to go complicated. So this is the things I really recommend. Like, don't start just thinking recipes. Start to think, okay, in the everyday stuff I've got, what can I replace? What I can do myself? And the more you're going to do this, you're going to feel confident. Find these little things that you can do well, you know, even if it's a dressing or a mayonnaise. You say, you know, I can make a mayonnaise, you know, that's a good thing. Let me move forward after that. And that's how I went, you know, when I started. And of course, techniques. If you're someone that wants to be serious about cooking, okay, but French cooking, even if you begin, don't underestimate the culinary techniques and the culinary basics. Now, we do have one course. I've got a course on our online school, Get Started with French Cooking. It's going to teach you all the basics. You can buy a book if you want, and you don't have to go and do that course. You can enroll into some other online school, but my advice, do not underestimate the basic techniques, because without them, you know what, many times, sometimes I'm thinking, you know what, that thing, I'm going to skip something. Like, for instance, when you bread, like when you want to make chicken nuggets or breaded fish, and when you make fish and chips or schnitzels, that sort of things, you know the breading techniques in France, it's only flour, eggs, breadcrumbs. A lot of time I see people say, I can't be bothered to use the eggs. Let me just sprinkle some breadcrumb. And you guess what? The thing, it doesn't work. You cook it, the thing goes, you know, it goes astray. Learn the basics. Pané à l'anglaise. Flour, eggs, and then the breadcrumbs. We will see this actually next week again on how this little mix can help you to make amazing cheese and ham cheese croquettes, homemade, again with simple techniques. That said, very important, and don't underestimate. An interesting thing as well when you start is to find out if you're more of a baker or of a cook. And I think when you start, it's good to know what kind of equipment you should get. Because a lot of time it's like, you know, should I buy lots of pans, or should I buy some kind of a stand mixer and a lot of baking equipment? Now, this is something that starts very early on, and every one of us has got, you know, one thing. Or I'm more of a cook. I'm not too much of a baker, but I love it because it's something I don't know, so it's more challenging. So that's important. When you start, try yourself at making cakes, and try yourself at making other things, and try to see where your passion really lies. Next, once you're ready to level up your cooking, there's a few utensils that are absolutely vital to have. And for me, what have really helped me, like in 2020 and other time, was make sure you use a kitchen scales, a food and oven thermometer, and an electronic timer. Now, these little things, honestly, sounds crazy how simple it is. Measure everything. Baking is vital, but even for cooking, start to measure things as early as you can, because you will kind of create this automatism in your head. What is 5 grams of salt? And what is contained into a tablespoon of salt, a teaspoon of salt, tablespoon of sugar, that sort of thing. Oven thermometer. A lot of time ovens are inaccurate. Put an oven thermometer in there, put your oven to 200 degrees, or if it's in Fahrenheit, 400 Fahrenheit, and check if it's accurate. If it's not accurate, you know where to go when you're going to be baking, roasting, or anything like this. You know you got the right temperature, because this is an open door to failure. Again, electronic timer, super important, because a lot of time we forget something is on the fire, if it has to be precise, if it's a roast, and something like that. Very important, the food thermometer. When you make a roast, if you don't know how to roast a thing or make a steak, you're not sure how to get that perfect consistency or like that medium rare or rare, you use a chart for temperature, the core temperature of the meats. And this thermometer you can put in the oven, and the stick goes in the oven. There's a cable coming out, and you can control as it cooks. This is the easiest way to approach. You can serve anyone the perfect cooked meat with a food thermometer. That will honestly level up your cooking immediately. People say, wow, that chicken is perfectly cooked. How did you do that? Yeah, little secret, food thermometer. Yes, finally, we'll keep it short, so I'll give you some little thing here. When you start cooking seriously, so once you've got these things, you know about the timing, you want to elevate your cooking, you have to seriously learn how to make stock and how to use stock in your cooking. Now, I am working at the moment on my next course, which is going to be about French sauces, and I'm re-exploring stock making, and it's reached a whole new level. Sauce making, stock making, and the importance of making your own stock is just absolutely mind-blowing. Once you do it, it kind of takes time to get into it, but once you do it, really, there's nothing that compares. And using stock instead of water in a lot of things, like in your soups, in your dish with sauce, or when you're making a sauce, is night and day. And this is what is gonna absolutely take your cooking to the next level. And if you mix the homemade stock with all the things I've talked about, with all the spirits, the right salt and pepper, the right, bay leaves. This is from the garden. Actually, I took this from the garden. In here, some bay leaves. Everything will come together. You want a simple fact about bay leaves as well? That little bay leaf that you see here, that's a lot of flavoring. For a stock, one of these leaves is enough to flavor 5 liters of water. So, if you're inexperienced, you're gonna throw all this in your stock, and your stock is gonna taste big time like bay leaf, which is then a fail. So these are the little thing. Okay, so stock and water. I'll finish with a little quote from Paul Bocuse, and that's a little bit over the top. I was watching one of his videos, the old videos, and it comes to making soups and cooking vegetables in water, and it says, also when you make a soup, or you cook some vegetables, so make sure you get some water, from the spring near the mountain. I was like, yeah, I don't have really had anybody say, that's maybe hard to find, but at least at the minimum, go to the well and get water from there, because the last thing you want to use is that horrible water that comes out of a tap. That was really fun, because actually tap water, it's simple, but if it smells like chlorine, if it smells like the swimming pool water, it's not good. If you make a soup with this, it's not good. And I'm actually looking at more like, this kind of refined dining chef, pro bakers and stuff like that. Making bread is actually made usually the good one with mineral water. That's what we should be using, mineral water. For cooking stuffs, cooking meats, cooking anything, when you throw water for vegetables. So of course, that's super expensive. So what I'm doing personally, I'm using a water filter. I've got rainwater tanks outside. I'm filtering my water in a simple, I'll show you just, that typical home style thing. Double filtered is adding some minerals. And at least when I'm making soups and other things, I know I've got a clean water. And that will be the final tip for this video. Even if you don't change anything, perhaps try to change the water and see how the taste of your soups can change. All right, guys, but that's it for me. I'm going to try to keep it short. As always, you're always welcome to throw in some question in the comment section, and we'll be resuming cooking. Remember, so next Thursday, where we're going to be practicing again a simple technique of the breading technique, the pané à l'anglaise, and the making of some beautiful ham and cheese croquettes. I've already tasted them. I've did some tests. They work well, and they taste absolutely delicious. Okay, so I see you all next time. Take care all. Bye-bye.